Good evening and welcome to PBS Fort Wayne. I'm Sandy Thomson, the host of this show coming up, but it's really your show. This is called Life Ahead. What we do here is each Wednesday night at 7:30, we bring you education and information on topics that you probably will have to deal with at some point in your life ahead. That's the name of the show. And the thing I want you to really know is that I said it's your show. There's a phone number at the bottom of the screen. You can see that, and we're going to have that appear periodically here in the next half hour. And you can give us a call and ask our panel questions that you'd like to have answered. Good opportunity to get some complimentary advice, actually. Well, we have an attorney here who's been with us many times, and this is Troy Kiefer. Troy's at the far end of the couch in the blue shirt. I'm looking to see here what you got. All right, blue shirt. And Troy, thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for having me. It's always a joy to be here with you.
It's just fun, isn't it? You know, we always have interesting topics, and it's more interesting if we have callers. So we really want to encourage that as much as possible. Now, he's brought along a friend to help talk about this topic because it's very timely, and that is Kurt Ness. Kurt, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Sandy.
You might recognize Kurt or his family from Huntington and now Fort Wayne, and you guys are just everywhere, it seems like. And I grew up in Huntington County, so I knew who you guys were way back when.
Yes.
Okay. Well, what we're going to talk about is downsizing, and there are several elements. Obviously, what legal things you need to take care of, and Kurt will be the expert on how you can do that, how you can make that an easier transition for you and for your family. Let's start with you, Troy. Why are we talking about this? Why is this topic relevant right now?
Yeah. Well, people of a certain age, older people, are facing some of the most difficult times in their lives.
Yeah.
There are a lot of transitions, a lot of changes, and they very often are least able to handle those changes at that age. One of those big changes is being in a larger home by themselves, perhaps. Moving, downsizing, moving to maybe a facility, assisted living or a nursing home, and they just have a lot of property, personal property, real estate. So how do you make that transition and support that person in the best way possible?
Well, and the tough thing is, obviously, because you're usually, well, in the cases we're talking about, if you're older, you have less energy and less time and less strength, and to tackle downsizing from a 4-bedroom family home, you know, to go to a 2-bedroom condo or villa or something like that is just physically a big chore to think about.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, we just moved our daughter.
Oh, you did?
And
how old is she, Troy?
Well, she's 26.
Okay.
And she had relatively few things, and it wore me out. So, yes, I can imagine what it's like for older people when they face that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you can tell us, Kurt, what clients you have, how can they deal with that? Because this is obviously an emotional thing for them as well as a physical job that they're going to be doing. How do they do that constructively?
I think that one of the key points is to develop a plan and have stuff in writing as far as the different steps that are involved. And they have to keep, probably at the top of the list, why they want to downsize. Because
keep reminding themselves?
Exactly. Because they're going to get frustrated. They're going to get overwhelmed at times.
Yeah.
And they need to look at what are the benefits of downsizing. And by having that plan in place, it allows them not only to have a roadmap, but also other people that are involved can kind of see where they're on that roadmap to help them along.
Who makes that plan, Kurt?
Well, it's basically they themselves need to there's a series of questions that they need to ask themselves.
Like?
Number one is, where do they see themselves, in a year or two, as an example? What steps do they have to go to get there as far as dealing with their stuff?
Yeah.
And having a plan in place that will help them deal with the stuff, whether it's giving it to family members, charity. Some stuff, unfortunately, doesn't have a lot of value. And then you have the stuff that does have value.
Isn't that word wonderful? Stuff. I mean, S-T-U-F-F. I mean, that really classifies a whole lot of what you have in your home. It's the stuff that somebody told me years ago, and I'm now seeing that that's very true, that the first half of your life is spent acquiring things, and the last half of your life is getting rid of things that you've acquired. And sometimes that's hard to do, especially if it's something that has a sentimental value, or maybe something you bought on a trip that reminds you of that time of your life. I always had a hard time letting go of anything that was a gift to me from somebody. I felt like I would be insulting them if I got rid of whatever it was, the gift that they gave me, even though it's maybe something I haven't used for 20 years and have no need for anymore. But still, I don't know. I have a hard time with that. What do you find most people have a difficult time giving up?
Well, I think number one, the emotional feelings that are attached to that stuff.
Yeah.
And then, and we encourage people too, that let's say something's been passed down through the family, write a little story about it and attach it to it, and then maybe give it to a grandchild. And then that way you're given a part of your history of the family and passing it on, would be an example.
I think that, I guess personally, maybe I think it's a good idea if you start doing that early and not wait until it's time for you to downsize and move to a small place, but I mean, start giving your kids things now. How about your daughter? You could have moved some of your stuff over to her place.
Maybe we did.
Yeah. She doesn't know about that stuff yet.
Not yet. Yeah.
What do you have to do with it, Troy? Legally, what do people or clients come to you for when they're getting ready to make some big downsizing move?
Yeah. As Kurt said, it's part of an overall plan.
Yeah.
And so often we are looking at what are their long-term health needs? And do we need to plan for Medicaid? Do we need to look at other special services that they might need? So, and it all flows together to make sure that holistically the person's being taken care of and they know where they're going. I mean, like Kurt said, they have a plan. And that includes the legal side of things too, estate documents, and of course their wills provide them a legal way to pass on all kinds of property, personal property, real estate, et cetera, to the people they want those things to go to, including family, charity. So we talk a lot about those things when we work with people regarding their wills and trusts.
Do people normally have a will and a power of attorney and all of those things named and documented and legal before, or is that a last minute thing as they're downsizing?
It's really all over the board. There really isn't a relationship or between the two. We have people who have had their legal documents ready to go for years, and they've been planning, moving towards this. Yeah. And then we have other people who don't have anything at that stage in life. So there really is no correlation between those events. But we always look at them, whether they need those documents or not. And regardless of what age they're at, they certainly need powers of attorney, and look at their gifting options, not only wills, but non-probate transfers.
Sure.
And I always tell people as well, just as has been mentioned, the best time to make a gift is during your life, because if you do that, no one can argue later
Good point.
as to whether or not you really wanted to make that gift. It absolutely legally went to the person you wanted it to go to.
Okay, all right. That reminds me what seems to be a controversy for a lot of people. As you're approaching that time where you think it's time for you to downsize, and you have your legal documents in order, but How about your personal things? Do you think, Troy and Kurt as well, that you need to make your children or whomever you're leaving stuff to, make them aware of that, or give them a copy of your will? What do you think, Troy?
That's one of those personal preference things. I have some people, just their personality, the way they look at life, they're very private.
Right.
And for whatever reason, they don't want their beneficiaries or people named in their will to know what their will says. They want to continue to be private. For those people, I recommend that they at least tell their family where those documents are in their home.
True.
But others, they're completely open, and I have a lot of people, when they get their documents, say, oh, the kids are going to be over this weekend. We're going to sit down. We're going to go over all this with them, so there's no confusion. If there happen to be any hard feelings, we'll get that out on the table now, so we can address that before the parents are gone. And so there really isn't a right or wrong answer. There are pros and cons to each.
Depends on the situation and the people.
Right.
Well, I'm one of those like get it out in the open, and I'd rather talk about it and work through any hard feelings while I'm still there to defend myself, I guess, rather than have all that happen after I've passed, and and then how do you solve it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you have this problem ever with people that come to you, Kurt? All right, you're a professional in helping people get rid of their stuff, but I'm going back to the emotion part of it now. How do people deal with physically giving away things?
I think one of the things that we try to emphasize is the fact that if they're giving it away and it's going to a good cause or helping an individual, so we're associating something positive with it. The aspect, as Troy was saying, we encounter people all the time that don't have a will. And
really?
Oh, yes.
Don't have a will.
We talk about the aspect that this is a chapter in your life, and having someone like Troy that goes through and gets everything lined up will eliminate a lot of problems down the road. Because we tell people, would you rather make the decision yourself or have somebody else make the decision? And most people want to have that control of making the decision. So, yes.
What do you do? I mean, what do you do if people come to you and say, okay, I need for your business to help me get rid of all of this stuff, whether it's take it somewhere, give it away, have an auction, however we're going to get rid of the stuff, but they don't have a will. What do you do?
Well, what we try to do is we say, we're going to give you a general outline of things that you need to address in this chapter of your life.
Okay.
I'm not here to try to push you, but we can kind of tell them some of the pros and cons of having a will versus not having a will, and so that their wishes are, done, and then kind of working through things. Because we've had situations, I can remember one where a woman did not have a will, and unfortunately, before she moved, she fell and hit her head on the doorknob and was paralyzed from the neck down. And she still would not she had no POA, she had no will.
Oh my goodness.
And even when she was in a nursing home, she refused. And you can only imagine the legal problems.
Why? I mean, what was her reasoning?
That's a good question. I can't answer that.
Yeah, sometimes there is no reason or not one that we can understand.
I don't know. I mean, there must be some fear somewhere. Maybe she
Well, I think definitely there's
knew
fear.
somebody that had a bad experience or something. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we have people like you to try to figure out for them what to do.
Yeah.
Hey, don't forget, you can give us a call. That number's right there on the bottom of the screen, 969-2720, and Kurt and Troy will help you with your particular problem. Okay, all right, let's say that you're starting to get rid of your stuff. Again, that magic word. Let's talk about clothing. What do you do with all your clothing?
Basically, what we try to look at is say, have you wore this piece of article in the last year? If you have not, then let's, unless it's some leather or fur, it really doesn't have a financial value.
Yeah.
But can we give it to a charity there's people that would definitely like these types of clothes. And so what we try to do is to get them in the mindset of if you're downsizing, going to a smaller facility, you're not going to have a huge walk-in closet like you have today. And just kind of, in a perfect world, downsizing doesn't happen in 30 days, 90 days, but it's over a process of maybe 12 months. And then that way, it's kind of like the old story, you eat an elephant one bite at a time and just kind of work at it that way.
Oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah, and I just wanted to interject because you mentioned value, and a real advantage of working with an auctioneer like Kurt is that a specialist knows the value of things, and if we can reduce it to the things that are really monetarily valuable, that can help the decision making. I know we work with a lot of people through their estates, and they think that they have a lot of valuable things, such as plates and antiques,
china and silver,
china, figurines, and
collectibles.
Yeah, and come to find out, younger people just aren't interested in those things anymore.
I know.
So,
do you find that, Kurt?
All the time. We were talking to a antique mall, and they were telling the clients what they paid for it 30 years ago, that's what it's worth today.
Yeah.
And we have had people that have gone out and bought figurines, telling their children, this is going to be your inheritance. And unfortunately, the value is not there.
Yeah, and it's kind of sad, but that's the truth. And I'm right with you, Troy, when you said that younger people now just don't want those things. I mean, it's a whole different lifestyle now. They don't want china and silver and, all of those kind of things. We do have a phone call. That's from Kim. Kim, thank you so much for watching us here on Life Ahead. And here's what Kim wants to know. What is the best method to bring up downsizing with your parents? Aha. So the discussion. Okay, you want to tackle that one, Troy?
Great.
Yeah, Kurt, you start.
I think the aspect of getting people to realize that, their mobility is declining, and let's be proactive versus reactive. And the idea of kind of selling it on if you want to say selling it, on here's an opportunity to give stuff away to the grandkids or maybe write the notes so that, they're passing on some of their history down to them. So you start little and you kind of work that way.
My daughter had asked me at one point, things that had been passed down through the family, whether it was a nightstand or a vase, I don't know, whatever, that was important enough to keep in the family, to put a little note on the bottom of this was from great grandma so and so, or whatever, so that she had a idea of the history of it. Do people do that, or I don't know?
Yeah, absolutely they do.
What about the method, and I've heard a lot of people do this, that they go around their house and they put stickers or something on all of their items to which kid that's going to go to, whether it's dishes or tables or whatever. Good idea or not?
Once again, it depends on the person, it depends on the family. Now, is that method legally binding? It is not.
That's good to know.
Unless your will specifically, states that.
Okay.
But I've never seen that.
Yeah.
And never had anyone ask to put that in a will. Usually it comes down to the personal representative and how they wish, they think is fair to distribute items. And you have some families that, hey, they're just, whatever you want to do, we're going to work things out. You have other families that want to go to an auction and reduce everything to cash. And if you want something, you buy it.
You buy it at your parents' auction.
Right, with the idea that you'll have a discount because you'll be receiving some of that money back. So you'll have a leg up on the public.
But what if you don't get it in the auction? Does that ever happen, Kurt?
We have had that happen. And
what do you do?
Well, I mean, they control as far as if they want it, the price it's going, that they're getting for it. So basically we just let the system work through it. One of the challenges I've seen is where a parent has promised 2 children one
The
item.
same thing.
Yeah,
Oh,
that can,
boy.
you know.
Is that flip a coin or play rock, scissors, whatever?
It kind of goes back to the family,
Yeah.
the dynamics of the family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, big decisions to make here. Okay, well, I hope we'll get another phone call or two here before the end of our show. We always appreciate you watching, and we want to make sure that we try to give you the information that you want to know about. Okay, I have a few more things to ask, though. How does one go about decluttering to begin that process of downsizing? Do they ask for help professionally, or is it family? What happens, Kurt?
I think one of the things that comes involved is the availability of people to help them. Because nowadays we have situations that the kids, I mean, I've got a son that lives in California and a daughter in New Jersey. So they might not have that. If they've got a church organization that people can come in and help. But what we try to encourage them is go to the room that's least used and start
there.
Start there. Because if you haven't been in that room for a couple of years, more than likely there's stuff that you don't need anymore.
And maybe it's easier to give up because if you haven't used that room, that stuff is not, front of mind. Oh, that's a good suggestion.
That's a good idea.
Then what? Next, what are we going to do here? How are we going to declutter?
Well, what
Troy?
we've seen, Troy, not trying.
Yeah.
And I don't have any good ideas on how to do that, other than that was basically my idea. Look at things that you haven't used, maybe have forgotten about.
Yeah.
Have you touched this item in the last few months? And if you haven't, you really need to have that discussion. And I think something that needs to be mentioned, going back maybe to a previous question, how can a child help a parent start to declutter? I think that's that can be a touchy thing, and I think the child needs to start slow. If you have a very strong-willed child and they come in and say, okay, we're going to do this weekend, you can be involved or not, that's a bad way to go.
That makes things pretty emotional, which leads me to maybe kind of a situation that might touch upon is hoarding. Do you find hoarding very often, Kurt?
We're seeing more and more of it. We've had a situation,
more and more of it.
Yes, where we've literally had to have a drone fly through the house so that we could see what's there. Yes.
That's scary.
It can be a little bit.
You said more and more. Do you think it's a trend that maybe 20 years ago you didn't see that often, but now you see more often?
I'm going to say yes, because I know from our perspective, we're working more and more with people that are downsizing. So, and you have the situation that people are living longer. And,
that's true, yes.
And now, they maybe have come through a generation that they're in their 90s, they grew up through the Depression, they never threw anything away. But that's really, I don't see that individual really hoarding. Hoarding is, a mental sickness, and so you've got to handle it totally different, with kit gloves, to say the least.
Exactly, and from what I have heard, often that takes a professional that needs to be there to help that person emotionally through the process.
Definitely.
All right, last minute. We only have a minute or so to go. Last things, Troy, that people might need to know from a legal standpoint if they're going to downsize.
Well, I come back to the will and the trust, and you brought up some very good points about making sure that people, if they want a certain item to go to a child, make sure it's named in the will. Nowadays we use what they call a personal property memorandum, it's a list that you can attach to the will and make changes at any time without going back and seeing the attorney. So I encourage the use of those.
You can just do that yourself and attach it to the will?
Yeah,
okay, you don't have to take it back, go back to the attorney.
Right, there's certain requirements. It has to refer to the will and when you signed it, and you have to sign that list, but I encourage the use of that.
And that's kind of an ongoing thing that you can do. Kurt, what do you recommend to people?
Going back to your earlier question as far as where they start, we tell people to classify things in 4 areas. Number one, things they love. Number two, things that basically they want to give away. Number three, stuff that really doesn't have value. And number four, the items that are valuable. So that allows them to start to get some organization.
Well, that's a good, certainly a good piece of advice here for you. And I like the idea of like, I want to go home now and pick out which room is the least used and start, you know, category things, what I'm going to do with that. Good information. Thank you so much, Kurt, Ness, and Troy Kiefer. Thank you so much for being with us and sharing with our Life Ahead audience. And don't forget, I'll be right back here next Wednesday night at 7:30 with a new topic and a new guest. Have a good night. Stay safe, stay healthy.
The preceding program on PBS Fort Wayne was made possible in part by...
When I got a call saying my water bill was past due, all I could think about was, oh no, my plant babies. The guy told me I had to go make a payment at a crypto ATM in town.
Recognize fraud sooner with AARP, so your money lives longer.
Crypto ATM.
Beers Mallers, elder law attorneys, providing information on legal matters of guardianship and financial issues relating to nursing home care. Beers Mallers attorneys can also assist with Medicaid requirements and help navigate difficult family situations. Beers Mallers, attorneys at law, with offices in Fort Wayne, LaGrange, and on the web at beersmallers.com.